Multnomah County Chair Jessica Vega Pederson took office in January and immediately went to work on the county's homeless problem. She was already a Multnomah County Commissioner after serving 2 terms in the Oregon House of Representatives. A former project manager for a tech company, Chair Vega Pederson is now leading the county with the largest population in the state and overseeing a more than $3 billion budget. Jessica Vega Pederson, welcome back to Eye on Northwest Politics.
Thank you, Ken. It's great to be here.
Well, Multnomah County runs the Joint Office of Homeless Services. So how involved is the county in Portland's Safe Rest Village program and the mayor's plan for mega camps across the city?
Yeah, so the Joint Office of Homeless Services is a partnership through the city and the county. It was started, probably about 8 years ago now. In order to really have the system work better together between the investments that the city was already making and the county was already making. So as we go forward, that partnership is important. With something like the Safe Rest Villages, for instance, the city has funded those with their ARP dollars, and they have been in charge of things like siting, and the joint office itself is managing the contracts for the providers.
Now, how much money is Multnomah County dedicating to the homeless problem in the county?
Well, the Joint Office of Homeless Services it has a lot of the dollars that we're putting into the system through both the county general fund, the city general fund dollars, the ARPA dollars that we have in, as well as the supportive housing services dollars that we're going in. So there are hundreds of millions of dollars going into homeless services right now.
Now you said ARPA dollars. What are those?
Oh, so those are the federal dollars that were the American Rescue Plan dollars that are come from the federal government that have been put forward, through governments all across the country. Here in Oregon and in Multnomah County, we've really used those dollars in a way to help with COVID response, the public health response that the county has had to do. We've also dedicated millions and millions of dollars of helping families with rental assistance that they need, as well as wraparound services that they need if they come down with COVID, vaccinations, testing, you name it, that's what we've been doing. And we've also been able to use some of those dollars from both the city and the county to open up shelters during the pandemic.
How much progress are we making on the homeless problem? We still have thousands of people who are on the streets right now.
Yeah, I mean, I came into this office knowing that housing and homelessness was going to be the #1 priority that I wanted to work on, and I was committed to working in partnership with the city, with Metro, with the state in addressing this issue. It is a problem, and we know it's a problem that's actually gotten worse during the pandemic, as we had situations where people who were sleeping unsheltered outside, who were staying there for longer and longer times. And so that is something that we know we need to address and work together to address.
Portland City Commissioner Dan Ryan was on this show last week. He's in charge of the Safe Rest Villages for the city. Take a listen to what he said about what the Safe Rest RV site on Northeast Sunderland, which isn't open yet. He talked about it, even though the city says that site is ready. Take a listen to what he said.
So sometimes it just takes time when the county's negotiating with the providers. No one gets more impatient with that than I do. So I'm really disappointed that it's been open and ready since November, yet we still don't have people receiving those services.
What do you think about that comment? Is there a disconnect here between what the city is trying to do and what the county is doing?
I think the Safe Rest Villages are a really important part of our shelter system that we have. These alternative shelters have been very successful, I think, in getting people a safe place to stay. There's actually one that's not too far from where I live out in East Portland, the Menlo Park Shelter, and I was able to tour that and was really impressed by what I saw. I think it's a really good model. I think, with the county, in partnership with the city, doing the work through the joint office and having that contract, we're dedicated to really making sure that we can open up the Safe Rest Villages as well as all of the shelters at a very quick pace. We've had success doing that over the last few years, doubling the amount of shelters that we've had since before the pandemic. And so I think we need to, really focus on making sure that we're getting this open as quickly as possible.
Let's talk a little bit about what the county is doing in terms of housing people, the shelters. You have mentioned that a couple of times. How many shelters do we have? How many shelters do we need?
Yeah. So as I'm putting together my budget right now for the next fiscal year that'll start in July. I have a goal that we will have 2,400 shelter beds open and available for that next year. Right now, we have about 1,900 shelter beds that are being funded, and that are we're serving about 1,900 people through those beds. So I really want to grow the capacity that we have and have dedicated funding to be able to do that.
The state legislature is working through a $200 million homeless package right now. How will that help Multnomah County?
Yeah, I'm really grateful and excited about what the legislature is doing and what they're doing in response to Governor Kotek's executive orders really addressing housing and homelessness. So those dollars that would come to Multnomah County are going to be distributed in part with the regional multi-agency collaborative, the MAX. That's what the governor has set up. And we're going to be putting those dollars to use to both get people into permanent housing, to get people into shelter, and to help prevent people from becoming homeless. So this is going to be additive dollars that are really going to enable us to address the issue that we're seeing right now with urgency in getting people safely off the street and safely housed.
How is the county handling responsibility for services like mental health treatment, addiction treatment, especially among the homeless? These are some of the other issues that come along with homelessness in many cases.
Yeah, this is a really critical piece of how our systems are working together well to serve the people who most need it. And we know some of the people who are most vulnerable, all those people who are living unsheltered on our streets. Right now we have a system where people are being taken, having a crisis on the street, sometimes being taken to jail, sometimes being taken to the state hospital and then released, and there isn't really the system in place to support people. So I'm a big supporter of things like Portland Street Response and having a non-law enforcement way of getting people help that they need when they're in crisis. The county itself, we are investing in services, we're investing in programs to really address this. Our downtown behavioral health resource center that recently opened up in December is one of those ways. This is something that we've never had before. It is a place for people to go, people who are experiencing some of the biggest levels of crisis, to go, to have a safe space, to have stability, to have access to things like laundry and showers. And we're really excited about the work that's happening inside that building. And over the next few months in the spring, we're also going to be opening up some shelter and some transitional housing for people who are coming out of recovery. We don't want those people going back into homelessness. We want them to have a place to land.
Are we ever going to get a handle on this problem?
Yeah. You know, I think I'm very optimistic about the work that is happening now and the partnership that is happening now between the county, between the city, between the governor's office. There is a huge commitment to work together to address this problem. We actually spent all afternoon with the mayor and the mayor's staff talking about this issue and working on this issue. So I'm, with the resources that we have through the Supportive Housing Services measure, with the commitment that we have to address this problem, and the work that I'm doing right now in looking at some of the challenges that currently exist in our system, how we are collecting data, what data we're collecting, the consistency of the outreach that is happening, how successful we are in bringing people safely off the street, getting people into housing, staying into housing, right? Those are all of the things that I am focused on, making sure that we are being transparent with the public in the work that is happening. And that is something that I think that shared information and that shared commitment is going to make a big difference.
Chair Jessica Vega Pederson, thank you for coming back on Eye on Northwest Politics.
Thank you so much.